Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to discuss what we believe are the best free tools that are available within the CTC BIM suites. And we're going to highlight a few of them, talk about all of them, showcase a couple, and hope you see some benefit in these, and maybe introduce you to a couple that you didn't know existed. So with that, I got a couple things that I want to talk about real quick before we start. If you've got questions, you're attending live, questions that come up, ask. Use the questions panel. I'm monitoring those as we go. So as the questions come in, I will do my best to answer those, and I'll make sure to take some time at the end to recap them and answer them again, or answer any additional ones that came in that maybe I missed. If you're watching the recorded YouTube version at your leisure, ask in the comment section of the video itself. We monitor those as well, and we'll make sure that you get a response to your questions. Now we'll get going. Now, free stuff, everybody likes free, right? I like free. You guys probably like free, but that doesn't always mean you're getting something that's, valuable or functional at times. And, so we sometimes got to be wary with what free equates to. Today's tools and the tools from CTC software and the BIM suites that I'm going to talk about today, they are free and they are functional, and in some cases really, really, really good. And so we're going to talk about those and show you what they are and how they work. So the goal for today, other than just showing you what the free tools are, is to show you how some of them work and how you can benefit from them, and where there is productivity improvements and how you can use them to help with content management and making sure that the right things are in the right projects, and what some of these key features really are. And then at the end of the day, how you can get your hands on them if you don't already have them. So with that, let's show you first what some of the free tools are. We'll start with BIM Project Suite. If you've already have the CTC BIM suites installed today, we have it very precisely broken out, so it's obvious what tools are free and which tools are paid tools or the licensed tools. They're all in a lighter shaded color, right? So, and with the project suite here, everything's a light green is free. Everything that's dark green is paid. And in this case, we have detail link, length calculator, quick select, renumbering, Revit properties, which actually does not show in the ribbon in the toolbar there. It shows up via your right-click menu when you right-click on top of a Revit file, whether it's a project file, template file, family file. It's a right-click option just installed into Windows. And then View Aligner. For the BIM Manager Suite, light blue is free, dark blue is licensed. And for the free tools, we have Family Preview Manager, Family Tools, Project Cleaner, and Revision Cloud Remover. Lastly, in the BIM Batch Suite, we have Family Exporter and Family Loader. They are this lighter shaded purple. The licensed tools will be a darker shaded purple. Okay, so and generally speaking, all the tools are on the left side of the ribbon panel. For the free tools, they're all on the left. On the right side will be all your licensed tools. Sometimes they are collapsed into a drop-down called free tools, if you didn't change any of the naming conventions there. And for today, I'm going to highlight 5 tools specifically. If it'll let me do my stars. We're going to talk about renumbering. We're going to talk View Aligner from the Project Suite. From the Manager Suite, we're going to talk about Project Cleaner. And from the Batch Suite, we're going to talk about both free tools, family exporter and family loader. So that's kind of the route that we're going to take. But just real quick on some of the other ones, we're not going to demonstrate these, but I just want to quickly highlight key features. Detail link, batch links, or batch imports CAD files into drafting views in your Revit projects. Great for doing real quick, just need details from my CAD library. Or if you're going to begin the process of creating a detail library Revit and you want to Revitize your CAD stuff. Length calculator is great at getting you total length of selection within MEP systems. So pipes, ducts, cable trays. If you need conduits, if you need the total run of a selection of one of those categories, length calculator is really good at doing that. Quick select is a great way to make a selection of a bunch of stuff. And it's more than just, by category or by type, select all instances, or you do a big crossing window and hit the filter button. You can filter and create selections based off existing filters in Revit, categories, and nailed down to the parameter and the parameter value. So you can really get creative and put together something that selects everything that has a 1 hour rating in your project. So that's walls, that's doors, that could be ceilings, that could be windows, that could be floors, that could be a bunch of different things, and various wall types and various door types, right? You can select all of that in one shot, and then you can save it and use it on a different project. Renumbering, it's what it says. We're going to talk about this though. The Revit properties, I'm going to show it real quick so it doesn't have a star, but it takes 2 seconds. It just gives you basic properties about the Revit file in question. From the Manager Suite, Family Preview Manager helps you create new thumbnails for your families. So, and that way you don't have to, and it does it in batch, right? So I can create a template, if you will, that says I want all my 3D families to be the front right top orientation at a fine level of detail with a realistic display style and at a scale of 6 inches equals a foot. And I want various things turned off. So no reference planes, no dimensions, no levels or grids, or if any of that stuff shows up. All that stuff will be turned off, and you'll just see a rendered image of that family, and that'll be your thumbnail. Pretty slick. Family Tools does a bunch of stuff, like comparing shared parameter files and merging some parameters together within those files, or deleting backups from a directory, or converting CSV files to type catalog files for you if you're doing a lot of type catalog creation. Revision Cloud Remover removes clouds from your project that are not, presenting challenges and trying to find them. You're having difficulty finding out where a cloud was created. Revision Cloud Remover will tell you where it is and give you the opportunity to delete it if you want. So now we're going to talk about the remaining 5, and real quick, number 6, just because. But I'm going to start with renumbering. So we're just going to jump right into the demo. At this point, there's no more PowerPoint. It's all Revit. And here we go. Let's have fun. Now, with renumbering, there's a bunch of different things that it can renumber. So here's my breakdown. BIM project suite, light green on the left, dark green on the right. Renumbering's right here. And of course, it opens over there. Oops. Sorry, it opened off the other screen. There we go. It's a very simple tool. It renumbers rooms, areas, and spaces for your spatial entities. Helps you renumber your doors and grids, detail numbers, or your views on the sheet, and then anything else that require a sequential numbering system. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's a couple of my favorite ways of doing things. Okay. So let's say this sheet of details. I want to rearrange my numbering scheme. So right now, that's all out of order. I got 4 and 3. 1, 6, you know, it's kind of a mess. So I want to start in the bottom right corner, work my way up and then to the left, okay? So with detail numbers, I can pick what I want to start with. It can be a number, it can be a letter. And then we've got a built-in auto swap so that you don't have to play that game where for number 7 to be renumbered to number 1, now I got to make sure 1's not used somewhere else and 7 gets renumbered somewhere, and it just becomes a mess, right? You start putting things at 99 and 98, 97 so that you can hit 1, 2, and 3. It's no fun. This tool does all that for you. So with this set to 1, I hit renumber, and then I just start clicking in the order that I would like. So here, this becomes 1. It automatically switches out with number 9. 2, 3, and I think that's the top one. Yep. And then we'll go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11 is already done. I don't have to worry about it. So that's it. I'm done. Just 10 clicks and I took care of everything. But maybe I changed my mind and I want to go ahead and start from the top and work my way to the right. That's okay. On the same, I just change my sequence back to 1 and start over. Click number 1 and then just work your way to the right. You can do this on the sheet really as many times as you want. So pretty slick way to do it. Has saved me hours upon hours of time when it comes to getting my detail sheets or interior elevation sheets or any sheet that has more than a couple of views on it to work. Then I'm going to switch to not that plan, but this plan, and just real quick show you how the rooms and doors work. Now with rooms, we're not always paying attention to how we're placing them and where they're going and what numbers they're getting, right? And you know, and even in some cases, somehow things get a prefix when they shouldn't have a prefix. And now I've got 2 101s when it really shouldn't be that way. At any rate, I can pick my own starting sequence, and you can get creative with this. If you're doing a healthcare project or any sort of large office building, sometimes there's additional prefixes and suffixes depending on the customer and the type of building that you're working with. Go ahead and put those in. If you're in the basement, or you know, you got a multi floors underground, sometimes you need an LL for the lower level, or some other numbering scheme to happen at the beginning, and then there's special suffixes after the fact. Like you can put all that stuff in here and it doesn't matter. You can put anything in that you need. The big piece here is auto swap, and you just start clicking the order in which you want them to go. Oops, I forgot to hit renumber. Hit renumber, and then you click the room element itself. And because of the auto swap, it now is so now I have 100. If I make this 101, this now becomes 102. These two swapped. And then you just go ahead and start clicking around. Every now and again, you'll see there's duplicate numbers, and that's because of a different parameter being used that shouldn't have been used. And that's just me in my demo file. So you just keep going around until you get what you want, and then call it a day. Hit escape when you're done. And you know, maybe in a healthcare you do buckets of 10 rooms, right? You have blocks on a floor, so there maybe not all numbers get used, or in suites and office buildings. Just whenever you get to the end of your sequence, change the starting point to be 120 or 130. Whatever you need it to do. You can also set increments. So maybe you didn't want every single one, but you wanted every 5th one, or every, you know, it's 110, 120, 130. Go ahead, set your increment to 10 and start at 100 or 200 or 1,000. There's no real limit to what you can do with this. When it comes to doing your doors, then you have options here. You can go ahead and manually pick the door that goes into the space. That's fine if you want to do it that way, or you can piggyback off what the room numbers are and use the room-based schemes here. So it's going to automatically inherit the room number for that door based on its opening configuration to room or from room. Okay, so you don't have to think about it. It's just going to kind of do it. All you have to do is make sure you click on a door. And if you visually want to see it, make sure it's tagged. So I'm going to go ahead, room, to room, new construction, auto swap, hit renumber, and I'm going to do this one first. Picks up 101. Then I'm going to come down here and grab this guy, gives me door 100, but then I also have this other door. When I click on that, it automatically inherits an A-B sort of increment, and I didn't even have to tell it to do that. It's doing that automatically. And you can see down here now that the next suffix would be C if there was a third door opening into this space, right? So it's already doing some of the thinking for me. And up here, I've got room 105. I can grab this door and then this door, and it does the same thing. So I don't have to try very hard to get things to work the way we want them to work. It's already kind of built in and doing some of the legwork for me, so which is great. Last but not least, the general tab. The general tab renumbers anything. Okay, anything. So doesn't matter what family it is, doesn't matter the category, as long as it either has a mark property or a text-based instance property. So we had a question come in and says, will renumber work with the MEP keynotes? If those MEP keynotes are not your true to the world Revit keynotes that has the keynote text file associated with it, which I do not think they are, then yes, this can work with those. So you can choose what your sequence starts with and go ahead, set your increment values and run with it. Okay, now, so you get to choose which text-based instance property you want to work with. So you can create custom door number, room numbers for various types of clients and projects that you may be working on. Maybe you want to number all your windows uniquely, not using the mark parameter, because the mark parameter tends to give us a bunch of errors, right? Or warnings in Revit that stack and compound. This is a great way to help clean that up if you are running into that. But it also just kind of allows you to bypass some of those default warnings and messages that you get in Revit. So again, any parameter, and I think I don't have the right number one that I want to use in this file. So I'm just going to do this. Room name and auto, well, no, not that one. Room ID, start sequence with, and then 1020, hit renumber, and then you just start clicking. And this is just okay, so that's not even existing in there. So I'm not even sure where, oh, that's a door parameter. That's why. So this is just, changing a property within the door is all it's doing. Room ID, 1022. That's all, see? But it allows me to do any of them. So tilt-up wall panels is a great example. Any piece of equipment that may need to have a unique number and you don't want to use mark, go ahead and use the renumbering tool. Next app I want to talk about is View Aligner. View Aligner does what it says. It's helping you align views on a sheet. And there are a couple of different ways to help you with that, right? So depending on the type of view that you have on your sheet, you have various options to choose from. You have the extents of the view, so top, bottom, middle, left, right, center are options to choose from. If you're working with plans, elevations, sections, details, now we've got levels and grids potentially at play that we may want to help align with. And it works just like the good old align command in Revit. You pick what you want to align by. So let's say I want to align by the top edge in this case. You pick the first view in question, and then you pick everything that needs to align to it. So if I want to make sure that these little wall details are all aligned across the top, I can do that. If I want to do the left edge now, pick this one, pick that one, now they're aligned across the left. And then I can hit escape and do these, hit escape again, do these. And if I had more, we can do more. I can do hit top again and make sure that these are all the detail aspect is, and the tops of my, well, in this case, these legends are all lined up. And that was kind of what I was hoping here, but there's too many extra notes. So you've got some flexibility as to how you align it. If I want to, I can also align sheets together, right? So if I've, in this case, I have 3 sheets. This one looks good. This one does not look good. So I'm going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to make this one not look good on purpose. Okay. So let's close these 2 out just to make it easier to see stuff. And I'm going to tile my windows here quick. Do this, close that, and close that here. Just trying to make it easier for us to see what's going on. All right. So now I've got 1 good view and 4 not so good views. Okay. I can actually use this to either align by a grid intersection, a level, well, not a level in this case, but I could pick one of my edges here. So maybe let's start with the left edge. So from here, I'm going to grab the left edge alignment, pick my starting view, my kosher view, and then switch to the other sheets and grab the views from those sheets to get everything aligned to the left edge. And now from here, I can choose top or bottom. So I'll start over. Let's do bottom. And this will be my starting view again. And then I'll switch to here and to here, just like that. And now things are in the same position. And I could do it per sheet, right? The kicker is just making sure that you can see the sheet so that you physically need to have something to select, which just means you have to have it open. But you do get options to align by grid if you choose to. So it's just a matter of clicking a view that has grids. You'll get a dialog box like this where you get to choose which grid you want to align by. And if, say, you picked grid 2, then you could go to any of the other views and align by grid 2, had I not already aligned them by the bottom and left edge. And levels works the same way. If a view's got a level, you're going to get a message. You're going to be allowed to do that. So like elevations and sections and such. We had a couple of questions come in regarding view aligner, so I'm going to answer those right now. Can I align the view title as well after the view has been aligned? I'm afraid not. It does not do the title independent of the view itself. So on a details sheet, for example, there will be some manipulation there to happen. That is in fact on our list of items to add to view aligner because titles need to line up too. So getting the views lined up is a great starting point, but if the titles don't line up, now I still have a little extra work to do. So it is on the list. Do the crop views all need to be the same size? And the aligner assumes the extent is the same in all views. Yes and yes. So ideally, we're talking. The hope is that you guys are using scope boxes at least for your plan views. And I guess they don't all have to be the same size, right? Like they can be varying sizes, but when it comes to the extents of the views, those can vary, especially when it comes to annotations and the annotation crop that sticks out, which changes the extent of the view, and or grids and levels that potentially stick outside. Scope boxes, especially when dealing with your floor plans, helps mitigate that a lot. It also helps within your elevation, your building elevations, and any sort of like wall section in regards to the vertical extents. if you can use scope boxes to help control some of those dimensional sizing, some of that sizing, it's going to make using a product like View Aligner a little bit better and helping you position those views. There will be a level of consistency there. Again, it's not perfect for every situation, which is why hopefully either the level or the grid option helps in that respect. But yeah, scope boxes are going to be a big part of the view placement if you're using them. They will help quite a bit. Okay. And yes, the grid intersection option is great. I like that one too. Okay, switch gears a little bit. On the CTC management tab, I want to talk project cleaner. So you can see here my visibility is a little different with my tools. I do have my manager suite collapsed into the free tools dropdown, and my productivity tools were not. Those were nice and stretched out. So you can get different looks here depending on what your setup is. Project cleaner in my case is in this collapsible dropdown here. And project cleaner specifically helps you clean up a project file for a couple of different reasons, right? One, maybe you received a model from a consultant. Maybe it's the architect model that you've received, or you've received a mechanical file or an MEP file as a background. And for whatever reason, it's getting large, it's a little heavy, it's hard, and it's making a sync times take longer, it's making the file take longer to open. There's a number of different reasons why something might be killing performance. Or another scenario is you are going to send your file off to somebody else to use it. And you want to lighten the load for them a little bit. Project Cleaner helps you do that. Effectively, think of it as a big purge utility without giving you the same purge features that Revit already offers. So things like views, view templates, filters, sheets, spatial elements, rooms, area, spaces, links, imports, and images. These are all things that sometimes need to be deleted, and there isn't really a great way to find them and delete them short of navigating around one at a time, what have you. So in this case, let's say I'm going to send my file off to a consultant for their backgrounds, or maybe the project's done and I want to archive it, but I don't want to archive it as is because it's, there's a lot of extra fluff in here, a lot of, hundreds of views that were created that are not part of the project, that were not printed as part of the submittal set. I can delete all that stuff. And there's a couple of different ways to view what you have. So there are some options that allow you to change how you're seeing some of this information, like the views in the sheets. Right now, I've got mine organized by on a sheet or not on a sheet. And same with the sheets tab. It's either being used or it's not being used, right? So I can find out exactly what's not on a sheet and get rid of all of that if I want to. If it's on a sheet, it should stay. If it's not on a sheet, do we really need it? And you can sit here and review every single 3D view, including the dot 3D view. Do you really need these? Maybe you do. So if there are some that you do want to keep, just make sure that they are not checked, and they will not get deleted. And that goes through with your details, your floor plans, and anything. Since I mentioned the sheets used or not, I don't have any that are empty apparently at the moment. So, which is great. Oh. But, I'll get rid of those. I'll get rid of those, and we'll get rid of those. And at this point, I could go through the other groups and tabs and make the same similar selections. I can save this. Now, if this is something that you're doing on a regular basis, maybe you want to go ahead and clear out a bunch of stuff. You could save it. And then the next project that comes to fruition, whether it's a completed project or you're going to send it off to your local architect or the structural firm, you can just load those settings and it's ready to go, right? Anything that's not on a sheet is ready to be deleted. Any of the sheets that are empty, ready to go. Maybe the naming conventions you use and your links are ready to go. Or maybe you do this before every single the file transfer, right? It's the same thing every single time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you want to purge something out. So you can load those in, have a few different settings files depending on what you're working with. Is there any way to, and before I answer this question, there's also a link to the out-of-the-box purge function, and this just opens up the native Revit purge command. So if for whatever reason you've deleted a bunch of views from your project and now you believe that it's orphaned a bunch of elements, detail components or viewport types and all that fun stuff, go to purge and purge that stuff out. And is there any way to recover a purged item if mistakenly removed? Great question. There's two ways to do that: close without saving and reopen it, or you'll just have to roll back the file if you're working on a work shared project. If you noticed it immediately, you could do either undo, which undoes everything, or close without saving. The app itself doesn't remember what you did in your last session. So it's not going to be able to go ahead and restore that for you. So it's either don't save it or roll back to a previous version, find those elements. And if you've already progressed so far, save that rolled back version as a copy and do a copy paste or transfer project standards, depending on what it was, to get it back into your model. But yeah, deleting is always tricky, especially when you do it in a mass like this. And it ended up being something that you didn't want to get rid of. And that's also part of the reason why it's in the manager suite. Not everybody gets the manager suite, right? There's other tools in here that could potentially cripple a project file or a bunch of families if something happens that wasn't intended. Manager suite doesn't end up on everyone's machine. All right. Last but certainly not least, is the free tools from the BIM batch suite. We're going to talk family exporter and family loader. Both are part of the free set here. I'm going to start with family exporter. Now, every now and again, I need to get stuff out of my projects, okay? And there's a couple of different reasons for that. Some groups that I've worked with over the years, their template or their projects basically are their family library, right? Like you start a new project, a bunch of your families are already there. If not all of them are there. And then anything that's been modified or new types made for that project, or maybe I had to build new content, or I downloaded content and made changes to it so that it would work for me and my projects. I need to maintain that and keep it going moving forward. So we can use family exporter to export everything out, including all of the new types that were used and changes that were made to various properties or dimensions. All that, as far as the types are concerned, are retained, and I can export all of that to a directory. And so I can either grab everything, or maybe I just want to grab stuff that, say, have you could search for a certain keyword, like anything that has base in the name, right? Or maybe you downloaded a bunch of content from a manufacturer and you want to find everything that says ICS in it, so a bunch of doors and windows in my case. Or because you need run them through Family Processor to put a bunch of new parameters in them, for example. There's a bunch of different reasons to need to export batches of content from your project. Revit can do it if you're just trying to get everything. This is a great way to do it if you want to be selective, or if you do want to get everything, and then you can put it in a special naming structure or folder directory structure, prefix and suffix on the families themselves if you'd like. You don't have to. It's there for you if you'd like. And you just grab a couple of folders. You can grab individual families from those folders too if you'd like. There's a couple of different workflows here at your disposal depending on the need and what you're trying to export and for what purpose. So that's the wrong folder. I'm not in 2020. I'm just going to go ahead and run through it real quick. So temp, where's my families? And I've done this a few times. We'll do 2023 V4. Oh, come on, Windows, refresh. I don't know why Windows likes to do this to me. All right, so we'll just do this, do that. Anyway, that's the whole, there it goes. Now it refreshed. Here we go, let's try that again. Make sure, because new folder doesn't exist, I promise. There it is. All right, let's go ahead and dump them out. And once the export happens, now I can go ahead and do what other content edits I may need to make at this point, whether it's running them through Family Processor to add a parameter or two, or maybe I want to build some type catalogs for them. We can start exporting type catalogs based off the types in those families. There's a number of different reasons for wanting to do this. But then what I can do is once I get all my families exported, they're in a folder, I can open my template or starter project or the next project in line that's already been started and use a tool like Family Loader to load everything from that folder into that new project. So there's a couple of different things that may provide useful with using these two apps in tandem with each other. But once this is done exporting, I'll switch over. Family Loader's purpose is to help you batch load content into a project or multiple projects, it really just depends on the project and what content you're trying to load in. And since I am still waiting for a quick little export to run, I am gonna real quick showcase Revit properties because I love it and I think you should too. But really what it boils down to is Revit, the BIM project suite installs a right-click option into Windows, and it's called Revit properties. You may hear us say, right-click Revit properties. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. When you do that on any Revit file, you're gonna get a window that pops up that tells you a little bit of information about that Revit file, where it's saved, what its name is, what version of Revit it was being used. Is it a central file? Was it made with Revit LT? Where was it last saved? And if it's a family, there's a little bit more information about the family as well, and I'll show that. But then with files, you get an option to open. So you can either open it in the version that you worked with, or you can actually open it in a different version going forward, right? Newer version, if you wanted to upgrade it. You can do all that. Now I'm gonna go quickly show you one of the families because I just exported a bunch from V4. I grabbed some generic models. If I right click this and go to Revit properties, I get some information about the family files as well. Specifically what the category is and if there are any types saved within the family. Those are kind of the big differences there between the projects versus the family. Projects, I care if it's work shared or not. Families, I care about the category and how many types are contained within. So those are kind of the differences between the two results within the Revit properties. Very powerful, very awesome, part of the free kit. So someone said they loved it, so I wanted to highlight it real quick because I love it too. All right, so it's done. Here I get a report that tells me what was exported. And if anything failed to export, I would get notified of that failure to export. Now, I did get messages out of Revit, and those are constraints messaging, and those are pretty typical. It doesn't prevent anything from happening, so they still got export. All right, now I'm going to turn around now and fire up Family Loader. So Family Loader does two really key workflows here. One is to just batch load a bucket load of content into a project, or into any project for that matter. Right, so you can add projects from your server, on the R drive or the P drive for your projects, or you can add them from your BIM 360 sites. So if you're using ACC or BIM 360, whatever you want to call it, you can actually grab the project files from there and specify which project you want to use. And then you can specify which families to load into that project. And you can go ahead and hit add families and go find wherever they are stored, right? So if I've got stuff here on my C drive, because I just love saving stuff to my C drive. I'm gonna go ahead and grab casework. But you can just pick a folder. It'll search in subfolders if you want it to. And you can either select individual or all. It's up to you how you want to do it. Hit OK. And now it's going to take all these families, open this up off the BIM cloud, load all the content in, sync and close it. And it's going to do all that because I told it to. Now, I can take it an extra step and say, well, maybe I've modified some content. Right? I exported everything. I've got a family library. I did a ton of edits. Now I want to go ahead and update all of my projects. You can do that as long as the families, some of those families exist in the project. So you could actually load this up and add 5, 6, 7, 8 projects to this list. You could add your entire family library to this list and then specify to only reload families that already exist. And then say, and then you could even take it a step further and say only from those families that existed, only reload the types that exist. So that way you're not overloading projects with content that they don't need or types that they don't need, right? Now, or maybe you got a new project starting. It needs everything. So you can just say, hey, load all families, regardless of what it is. So you've got some options and flexibility with how and what is being loaded back into the selection of projects here. And then for the central files, if you're doing anything with a work shared project, you can make sure it's creating a new local. So that way it's not opening the central file directly. And there's dialog suppression for the families that you're loading in. Just like you would load a family in manually, we have the same options here. Which one do you want it to use? The top option in this case is what I'm going to prefer to use. And then do you want it to auto save it when it's all said and done? Yeah, save it, of course. Sync up the work shared files, make sure they're closed. And if you are afraid that you're going to load the wrong stuff in or it's going to break something because of it, because you're not quite sure of the changes that are made or what you're actually loading in, you can always tell it to create a backup. And you will get a backup of that host file so that if something goes awry, you can always roll back to your backup. And then you hit load and it's going to go ahead and do what you told it to do. If this is a repeatable process, same projects or same families, you can save these settings. And now anytime you start a new project, for example, you just want to load in all your, all your equipment families, or all your doors and windows and furniture, or all of your, air terminals and diffusers. You can create setups for those. Just save these. It's just a simple text file. Put them wherever you want. And when it comes down to starting a new project and making sure that content gets in there, you can just load that file up and away you go. And you can do that with projects. You can do that with content. Create yourself some starting points. And another final option is to load via what the active document is. If you've got the project open, you do get a current document option. It will go through and basically look, depending on what categories you've got checked, it's basically going to go ahead, and if it sees the dates modified since the last time it was loaded into your project file, it's going to go ahead and reload it, and it's going to take all the guessing work out of it for you. Now, it's going to take a while to process, as does anything when it comes to working with Revit, but you could theoretically just say, hey, my door families, reload them. Go to lunch, go get a cup of coffee, come back. And if you only had 2 edits that were made, but you didn't remember which 2 they were, you just know two door families got changes. You just got those 2 changes. So a couple of different ways to do it. If you're concerned about file paths, you can hit report and it'll tell you where your content's being loaded from, if that was ever a concern. In case people are loading from not the right location. So, I'm loading everything off my C drive. That's not necessarily the best way to do it. But I'm not working on a project like you guys are. So it'll tell you where things are coming from. So if it's not coming from the C drive and it's coming from the S drive, maybe I need it to come from my C drive or vice versa. So I can fix that. Okay, that covers it for today. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you all for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I hope you saw some tools in here that piqued your interest. If you have any questions or you want to learn more information, I forgot one thing. I just remembered this. Go to our website, ctcsoftware.com. On the products page is where we have downloads and more information about the products themselves. So let me just bring that over here real quick. ctcsoftware.com, products. Each of our products have their own page, and in this location, you have the option to get your free trial if you don't already have a copy of the tools. When you fill out the form for the BIM Manager Suite, you're actually going to get the BIM Suites installer, which technically gives you all of the other products in it. So you would, just by downloading one, you're actually getting Project Suite and Batch Suite in this case, in addition to the Manager Suite. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out before I actually shut the door on you guys. Now I say thank you. Hopefully you see something that piques your interest. Questions, if you have any, after today, ask in the YouTube comments panel or send us an email at info@ctcsoftware.com. Our team will redirect it to the appropriate parties and you will get an answer from one of us here at CTC. Again, thank you for coming and we'll see you at the next webinar.